Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. We have an awesome show. We're going to take you all the way to New Zealand for this conversation today. We're going to hear from Jen Larrick, the brand new head coach of Minnesota Aurora, and she's quite familiar with this team, so they're in great hands. But we'll go next to the land down under to have this conversation coming up.
Yes, this is Dawn of Sports. I'm Jim Suhan with TalkNorth.com and the Star Tribune. Dawn, of course, from Fox9. Really excited to have Jen on for this conversation. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. We want to thank our sponsors, Rudy Luther Toyota, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Natrium, Natrium.com, the Natrium and Wildflower Shops. Best way to listen to this show or any show at TalkNorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen, and we do appreciate it. Back to Dawn.
All right. Well, I'm so excited for this conversation because I think if you've been listening for a while, I grew up playing soccer. It's my number one love of a sport to play. Whenever you talk to a sports person and you say what's your favorite sport, you got to clarify, right? To watch, to be at in person, on TV, to play. Well, soccer for me growing up was that sport. So with that said, we welcome in Jen Larrick. She's in New Zealand right now, but she's the brand new head coach of Minnesota Aurora. Jen, thanks for joining us. I know that you probably had to get up really early, or is it really late there? I'm assuming really early.
Yeah, Don, thanks so much for having me. I got up at 6:30 a.m., but I'm getting used to that these days just to be a little more in sync with Minnesota time, and no issue getting up early for soccer-related things.
Well, before we get into why you are in New Zealand, I just want to say congratulations. This is such a great thing for you. And I know you were an assistant for 2 years, especially when this team launched off the ground. So you must be through the roof excited right now.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I love Minnesota Aurora. I do feel really connected to the club. Been involved since, before we had a single player on the roster. And it's totally a dream to be back.
So tell us how you got involved even before you got the player on the roster. I know that this was kind of like, I know Andrea Yock, that it was the grassroots thing, just pulling this together. And Nicole was the head coach and you were an assistant. What was it like building something that not only is a team, anyone can build a team, but this has become a movement and has been so embraced by Minnesotans that it's been so beautiful to witness. And now you're a part of it coming back around.
Yeah, beautiful is such a good word. So I go way back before Aurora started, was a co-founder of a nonprofit called Like a Girl, and we put on college showcase tournaments for girls who were a bit marginalized in the youth soccer to college sports pipeline. So unless you can sort of afford really organized club soccer that's expensive, that requires a lot of travel, it's hard to be seen at college showcase tournaments and get college scholarships or even just access to a roster spot in college. So I helped put on a tournament in St. Paul, McMurray Fields. And at the time, I connected with Matt of Equal Time Soccer. And we just sort of built a friendship over our passion for the game. And he is one of the initial sort of thought leaders of Aurora. He's a founder, and he welcomed me into the first ever in-person conversation about, before there was a name, about like, let's start a women's club. And it was really cool to just like see the passion from that first ever meeting and see where it's come now. And it's just utterly and completely due to the fan presence. Year one, first game ever, we as coaches, we were like, okay, it'd be cool if some people show up. We're focused on the game, not really super focused on, ticket sales. Obviously, we've got a great staff to do that. And then that first ever home game, I can see it so clearly. We played Green Bay at home. Shelby scored our first ever goal and, made a heart sign to the fans, and they sort of erupted. We had truly no idea that many people were going to show up, and it's the fans that have made it so special.
You talk about the fans, and each year you see the players just embrace more and more, because it's kind of weird if you are a young soccer player and you've had your family in the stands or something, but you can be intimidated by going to Egan and you go there, you're at TCO Stadium, the fans are packed. You could be like, what? And now they're like, yeah. It's kind of a thing that it's been so awesome to see it kind of grow into what it is. But how did you on the coaching staff see the players kind of transform from that first, like, what is this, to, oh my goodness, this is the best?
Yeah, you're so spot on with that question. Like I said, year one, that first ever game, all of us coaching staff we were commenting, oh my God, like you could see our players' eyes get really big, and they just had this sort of moment of shock about it. And I think, we even talked about afterwards that first match against Green Bay, we didn't feel like we necessarily performed our best, even because I do think there's a little bit of collective shock for our team, for Green Bay. Not a single player in that roster had experienced that sort of environment before. But they, like you said, they've really embraced it. Year two, a couple players in our team sort of got kooky and bought wolf tattoos that they wore to sort of embrace the crowd and be funny. And rumor has it last year they convinced every single player on the team to wear these stick-on wolf tattoos for one of the games. So they've just embraced it with those sort of quirky, funny things. We've got a home game celebration captain, Team Selly captain, Mariah Wynn. And I've been sort of in awe of it. Being a coach, big John Wooden fan, and he had his rules to live by, and he made sure the players didn't read any of the news about them. And back then it's just newspapers, right? And they didn't have to deal with social media. Now our players have social media to deal with. They've got interviews, podcasts, television. They're hoping maybe they could somehow get a goal on ESPN top 10, right? And I've been so impressed with how they've navigated all of that. We have not lived by John Wooden's, make sure the players don't look at any news, because it's impossible these days. But at the same time, the players sort of feed off of it and enjoy it, I think, more than they feel it as pressure. But I think some do feel it as pressure, and for those players, it makes total sense. It's totally human. I myself sort of avoid social media just to focus on what's really important, the players in the game. But we do have mental health services, sports psychology access as well for players who are trying to just navigate this sort of incredibly weird but awesome environment.
We want to talk more about the Aurora and your job, but I first have to ask, why are you in New Zealand? And tell me more about New Zealand, because everything I've ever seen about New Zealand is spectacular.
Yeah, Jim, New Zealand's a beautiful country. I just did 2 weeks ago, I had this, before I got the new job, already pre-planned camper van week-long vacation on the South Island. I got to kayak in Milford Sound and hike down there. It was incredible. So highly recommend to anybody who can come out to New Zealand. I am here because I came to play in the New Zealand Women's National League. My team made it to the final. We came in second. And I still love playing. I'm 31. I can still kick around a bit. And for me, continuing to play makes me a better coach, hands down. I not only in my coaching role deliver information and feedback and make coaching decisions and figure out how to navigate team dynamics, but as a player, I get to, on the flip side, sort of receive those things and process how it lands for me and how it lands for my teammates, and think through how maybe I would do things differently, or learn from what the great activities my coaches are putting on in training. So I've continued to try to still play, purely for my love of the game, but also absolutely because it makes me a better coach.
Great to be having this conversation with Jen. We want to let you know that we are able to have these conversations because of our many loyal sponsors. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio, and we want to thank longtime sponsor, longtime supporter of women's sports in the Twin Cities, Rudy Luther Toyota.
Ready for a women-forward car dealership? Rudy Luther Toyota empowers their many women on staff in sales, management, and service. Whether you are looking for a new Toyota or pre-owned vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota has something for everyone. Every vehicle comes with a Luther Advantage. 10 cents off fuel and car wash discounts at holiday stations, Luther Advantage warranty, and 5-day return policy on pre-owned vehicles. Located just 5 minutes west of downtown Minneapolis, off 394 and General Mills Boulevard. And they're also hiring. Want to join the team but don't know where to start? Visit rudyluthertoyota.com today.
Also want to thank another local company that does great work helping people, Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. I am happy that Minnesota Masonic Charities has chosen Minnesota Bound and this podcast as a place to help spread the word. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
Now the one Dawn always gets excited to hear me talk about, because I get excited talking about it, Natrium, natrium.com, the Natrium and Wildflower Shops. I've told you how I use their products. I just want to remind you that not everybody's going to use them in the same way. So you can go to Natrium, you can go to Wildflower, you can check out all the products. If you get the bombs, they're antifungal, anti-infectious, antibacterial. They're anti-inflammatory. They help with muscle pain, help with arthritis and tendonitis. They can give you pain relief in as little as 15 minutes. You can apply it up to 3 times a day. It smells good. It feels good. It's not like the old Ben Gay stuff. It's actually very pleasant to use. I use it myself. If you have any stomach troubles, they have oils that help you have what they call happy guts. Offers the anti-inflammatory help for gut issues. It can also sometimes help relieve headaches and migraines. I know in my personal health, I found that my gut health is often linked to headaches. Are you knuckle gripping the steering wheel because of how people drive? Do you get stressed when you're driving? You get stressed at work? Quick fixes help take that anxiety, stress, and feeling of that the walls are closing in, and helps take that away. They have quick fix stuff that'll help you. All these products are natural. All of them have very few ingredients. This is not some, chemical lab that you're going to be wondering what that word means and why you're putting it in your body. Everything is very simple, straightforward. And as I always say, I would go to a Wildflower or Natrium shop, talk to the sales professionals. They know their stuff. They understand all the products, and they can help steer you to the one that'll help you the most. The interesting thing about the Aurora is it's what it is great, and yet everybody wants more. If you play for the Aurora, you're trying to play at a higher level eventually. Nicole Lukic went on to obviously extend her career after working with the Aurora. I mean, so how much of working as a head coach for the Aurora is a destination? How much is it a stepping stone?
Yeah, shout out to Nicole. Great coach. I'm very happy for her. We stay in touch. She's a good friend.
Great. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, for me, this is a destination. I love Minnesota. I love the Twin Cities. I have obviously no immediate plans for this to be the next thing that launches me to something bigger, better. I've really embraced in my own life the Aurora slogan for community by community, and I was never one to climb the sort of college soccer ranks by moving states and joining a new team every 2 years. If you look at my career, I was really rooted in the Twin Cities, and I really enjoy the soccer community there. It's helped me, made me better to stick with the same group of colleagues and mentors sort of as a Minnesota home base, and then obviously to travel broadly and learn from my experiences in the UK and New Zealand, and traveling to see friends coach just within the States. So for me, that's been a really good setup to help me become a better coach and enjoy the job. So yeah, I don't don't see this for me as like a launching pad, but you're right. You're spot on about for players. This is, we often advertise it to them in our recruiting calls as this is your stepping stone to a pro situation, if that's what you're looking for. So yeah, for us, it's about every year getting really quality returners back, but also understanding that our job is to help progress on, top quality players who that's what they want.
Well, Jen, I want to give our listeners all your flowers too of where you've come from. So played soccer at Florida, and then of course U of M. So you're always a Gopher, and everyone's go Gophs. Everyone in this whole region loves the Gophers. So you even have now players on your team to be this summer who are on the team. So there's that maroon and gold connection that always holds true. You also coached at Augsburg, Hamlin, like you just touched on. You played at Cardiff Metropolitan, right, in the UK, also in New Zealand. So, these young players, they look at you like, okay, she's still hip and playing, but she also has her chops. She has her coaching licenses. She's played here locally. She's been invested in colleges nearby. So there's this gravitas that comes along with hearing your name, Jen Larrick, to be able to come back to this team. And that lifts young women up. Like you can tell when they start talking to you like, oh, she knows how to ball. Oh, she knows how to coach. Like they can tell, right?
I hope so. That's for them to say, but I take being a good coach really, really seriously. So yeah, I, like you mentioned, was out at Cardiff Metropolitan University in the UK, and I got to play in sort of their version of college soccer, British college soccer. So I was, kicking around with 18, 19-year-olds again, which was really fun. But the main reason that I was there in Cardiff in Wales was to work on my doctorate in sport coaching. So I take coaching really seriously, and I've always learned from the academic side of coaching. So even when I was at the University of Florida and U of M for my undergrad, I was planning my undergraduate degree around coaching. And actually at the U of M, I did a self-designed degree. It was called the Inter-College Program. Yeah, I designed my own degree, my own curriculum. I had to write a paper about my curriculum and defend it, why I chose to study what I did. And I designed my whole entire undergraduate degree around coaching. Wow. Went on to get a master's degree in youth development from the U of M. And again, that program was really flexible. I designed that master's program completely around coaching. I looked at coaching as youth work. And then now working on this doctorate in sport coaching. And the UK is really the hotbed for looking at coaching academically. There's not a single, to my knowledge, I'd love for somebody to correct me if it's out there, but not a single doctorate program in the US on sport coaching specifically. But one of the main sort of coaching academics, Robin Jones, who I got to read a bunch in undergrad through Dr. Lavoie's classes at the U of M. Dr. Lavoie, world's expert in women in coaching through the Tucker Center. But yeah, Robin Jones started my program at Cardiff Met, and I've been able to study with some of the leading coaching scholars in the world. Just incredible people who think about this stuff year round. They do studies with UEFA, with FIFA. Yeah, it was pretty incredible to be there in Cardiff. Learned a bunch. Also got my UEFA B license when I was in the UK. So definitely learned and had some great experiences in the UK for sure.
Well, and also your lived experiences too, because a lot of these young players, like you mentioned, have now had a chance to go on and play professionally, and they go abroad. Which might seem daunting to a player that's maybe just been from the Midwest or, heard about the program from, I think there's been some players that have come up from like Oregon and they come to the Midwest for the summer. And now taking the chance to go across the pond, as people like to say, or just going global, it takes that fear away from it. If they can talk to a coach, a player, a former player, someone like you that has been away from home and has traveled to open up the perspective. Because I know one of the founding things for Aurora is, listen, we know that people are going to come and go because we want to lift young women up. That's what we want. We want them to chase their dreams. We want them to be able to fly the coop if they need to. We're not here to hold anyone down. We're here to build up their strength, like on and off the field. How empowering is that for you to be a leader in that sense of the word as well?
Yeah, I think you're spot on about just sort of how strange and daunting it can feel to be like, wait, I'm going to move internationally.
Right.
Before I moved to Wales, I had never visited. It was a lot of money to visit. It was sort of around 2020, 21. It was a tricky time to be traveling internationally. And I just got on a plane and moved to Wales. And I just, there's a certain point where I was like, I can't really picture what next year is going to look like. Or like, as it got closer, it felt like my future was just sort of this like imaginative cliff that I couldn't see clearly, just felt fuzzy. And you know what? It is tricky. There's visa challenges. You don't know who to go to at the new university for the right help about the right thing. And I was fortunate. I went to a country where the main language was still English, but we've got players playing in Portugal and Denmark and Croatia, and it's tricky. You have to navigate new cultures and new countries and new ways of playing and new ways of coaching. But along with it being tricky, it's exciting, and I think it makes you a more dynamic, interesting, global human. I think it's a really incredible experience. I know more and more players are wanting to stay in the US or in North America with the new, obviously we've got the NWSL, which is incredible. We've got the new USL Super League. Canada has just started the Northern Super League. So there's some incredible options in North America right now. But I really do encourage players to think about going abroad. And I think you're absolutely right. Something that has been really important to me with regard to this Aurora job is if we're going to be facilitating and helping and encouraging players to go live and play abroad, well, I think it's important that I have a little bit of experience and context of that myself. So now I can help players, hey, before you move, make sure you've crossed your I's and dotted your T with your visa. Make sure you ask your agent about this question before you sign that contract. I do feel like I can not only intellectually help players with that idea, but sort of emotionally help them with what is this process going to be like. And as well, I have been able to see the sort of explosion of women's football across the world. I've been able to see my own sort of slice of that. When I arrived in Wales, England had just won the Euros. And you could feel it in the air. It was like the fact that women were really good at football and could play at a high level and it could be impressive to watch was just sort of dawning on people. It was this sort of impressive cultural moment. The England women had just sort of recently sold out Wembley for either the first time or one of the first times. And it almost felt like I was in first grade when the 99ers won the World Cup. And
Wow.
And I think, that was a really pivotal moment in U.S. women's soccer history, in my personal life. All the memories I've ever had, I've seen women playing at the highest level on television. I always knew I could do it. I always knew I could coach it because I saw it, right? If you can see it, you can be it.
Exactly.
And it was like I was arriving in the UK at this moment when that sort of cultural consciousness was happening there. And then sort of similarly in New Zealand, a year, just a year back, they hosted the Women's World Cup. So similarly, New Zealand as a country had just recently really got excited about women's football and saw the best players in the whole world here on their home soil. I'm in Wellington. There's there were matches hosted here in Wellington. People tell me stories about the players they saw, the game they helped volunteer with. And there's this sort of moment going on here in New Zealand as well of this excitement for women's football. And I think it's a really interesting and beautiful and fantastic, passionate time for players from the U.S. to try to go play abroad. There's more and more resources being given to women's soccer in other countries.
Yeah, I got chills when you said that, how you were arriving there at just that right moment in time and in history, and feeling your place in it. So that's so cool. I got chills. You're like, I'm arriving there and in the UK, and I'm like, okay, like there's support here.
Well, it's something I'm really passionate about. I have been trying to follow the Minnesota women's hockey team, and I saw a video online the other day of a woman posting that when she was growing up in Minnesota, like her dad had to like protest the town to let her play on the boys team. And I just think it's so, we need these cultural shifts worldwide, because girls need to grow up thinking and believing that the game is for them too, because it absolutely is. And even as a coach, tactically, I'm really passionate about, girls and women can handle high level tactics. They can handle intelligent play. I think things are shifting, but I think sort of, and obviously it's something that I learned from the Tucker Center when Title IX was first passed and there were paid positions for coaching girls and women. A lot of male coaches came in and got those first paid positions, and we're always still fighting to get more women in coaching. But I think historically there was potentially a little bit of this idea of like, okay, well, girls they can't really do exactly what good football is, so we'll just recruit the biggest, fastest, strongest ones and tell them to boot it forward, and we'll just be athletic. And
Right.
I'm not here for that. It's
Right.
Women are brilliant, and we can play really complex, beautiful football. And I just am so passionate about girls having access to the game, but also being coached and treated like really serious athletes. So yeah, it's gives me chills too. I could rant about it all day long.
No, I love it. I love it. And you brought up an excellent point about a lot of the women that go overseas. I think one of the very first Minnesota Aurorian, if you want to put it that way, in terms of a graduate, right? Tiana Harris, she went over to France, and I happened to be over in France at the time where she was playing, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, a slice of home! Like, please, will you come to my game?" And I said, "Absolutely." My friends are like, "We're all for it. We are hopping in an Uber, and we don't know where it is, but we'll find it." And so we went, and it was pouring rain, but there was a crowd, and it was just great. And she said things that really last with me now, because she did not know French. If she knew a little bit going over there, but she had French class. So she's meeting people out of class. They're not all just, footballers and soccer players. So she's meeting regular people and kind of getting into the culture, and had an apartment and everything. And she loved it. But I was impressed to go. By the time I got there, I said, "You don't know French?" She goes, "Well, no, I've been taking classes." So it just expands you differently, that you take that little portion of when you've lived, and it just adds to you. And now Minnesota Aurora has players coming here from, Japan, from other places. Just international players now are going to be on your roster. And you have that knowledge of not being a native to where you're playing. How will that help you coaching some of these players that come in from other places?
Yeah, I've already had some chats with players about how much I love the Twin Cities and how we are really passionate about helping them feel settled here. I got off a call with an agent yesterday who works with a lot of players from Japan, and I love the Japanese style. So hoping, to bring in some players that way. And we had Mayu in year one from Japan, and by the end of year one, she had made some Japanese friends and was loving it. But I do know that those transitions can be difficult. So that's definitely something we have an eye toward. And like I said, we really try to live out that for community by community. So something that we started doing a bit in the past and that I am pretty passionate about expanding is making sure the out of town players get sort of an insiders list, like a co-created list with me and the coaching staff and all the players from Minnesota of here's your local coffee shops and restaurants and stores and the local events in the Twin Cities. You know, I want out of town players, whether they're from Kansas or Japan or anywhere in between. I want them to know about, the Stone Arch Bridge Art Festival and the day that they close Grand Ave and Lake Street and, just have those pop-up events on those streets. And I want them to know about the Northeast Minneapolis Art-A-Whirl. And I just love the Twin Cities. Like I'm totally obsessed with the way Minnesotans just embrace this summer and like soak up every bit of outdoor time we can.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that our out of town players leave from the summer just loving it the way that I do. In year one, I made sure all the out of town players, we did some initial events at Boom Island. Just bring your takeout, come chat at Boom Island. We brought a blanket and played some lawn games, and then we did a dinner at Minnehaha Falls, just to make sure they got to see some of these local incredible landmarks that we have. And my goal for out of town players is to make sure they fall in love with the Twin Cities, by the end of the summer.
Oh, that is so awesome. Before we wrap up, I do want to give a little bit of love to our home state because you, like myself, have come to Minnesota and then been blown away by how much you love it. But we are both native of Massachusetts. We won't say what other people call us. That's for a whole nother podcast. But you're from Westford. I grew up on the South Shore, Duxbury and Whitman. And, people are saying, well, do you always want to go back to Boston or you don't talk like you're from Boston. You don't sound like, I'm like, we don't all have the accent. If I'm tired, I'll slur 5 words together into one. Yes, I will. It will come out. But, people always say, oh, Minnesota and Massachusetts, all the way back from like hockey days, they hate each other. I'm like, every Massachusetts person I know that comes to Minnesota loves it. So there are a lot of similarities. Mm-hmm. So welcome, fellow native Massachusetts. I won't say, okay, people, they call us massholes. I'm just going to tell you that
really
with the
do.
M at the beginning, but
right.
Mostly New Yorkers. But how's that been for you?
Good. I love Massachusetts too. My parents are still in Westford. My brother and sister-in-law are in Salem. It's been fun to sort of fall in love with Salem through them. Got to love Salem in October. But I certainly did not move to Minnesota expecting to, be there a decade after I moved there. But like I said, just fell in love with it. But I super enjoy visiting Massachusetts. Love Boston. I always loved the falls there growing up. Minnesota has a great fall, but I just don't think you can beat a New England fall.
No,
I have
because it lasts past Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly.
Extra month.
Yeah. I have a great aunt and uncle who they've recently moved, but all the time I was growing up in Massachusetts, they had a blueberry farm that they owned and operated up in Ossipee, New Hampshire. So we would really try in the falls to make it up to Ossipee, New Hampshire and pick blueberries and peep the leaves. So I definitely grew up really loving those sort of quintessential New England experiences. And they're still a big part of my identity for sure.
Oh, for me too. But I said that's the reason why there are airplanes, right? You can, if you miss it, you hop on it, you go back and visit. And like you, we say our R's in proper places. It can happen, everyone. We all don't have that, it's not like The Departed. Everyone's like, oh, you got 4 brothers, you can take it. And like, they'll punch me. I'm like, I could throw a seashell or sand at you. Like, I'm not from inner city. And not everyone speaks like that and is like that. So thank you for being another person.
That's right. I grew up definitely saying wicked, like
Oh, heck yeah.
oh, that's wicked. That's wicked cool. And I've lost that a bit, and it does make me sort of sad. But I'd have picked up every once in a while like a Minnesotan O or A. I will remember forever the first time I accidentally did it. I like sort of shocked myself. I was just saying toaster, and it came out toaster, and I was like, oh God, what's happened to me? I've
geez.
lost my wicked, and I've started saying toaster.
Well, we were talking about this with some other people recently, and I said, it's all in the vowels, because I was going to be. I took some graduate courses in speech pathology, right? So it teaches you a lot about how accents are really from the, phonetic alphabet and stuff like that. So I could go down the nerd hole when it comes to that. But I remember thinking to myself, I had that moment, like, I say hilarious now. And people are like, yeah. I go, back home, it's hilarious. Now it's very subtle, but the A is different. And I go, the A's and the E's. Once you cross over, I said to my family, if I ever say plaza and not plaza, you might have to hit me. And they go, what? I go, I change how I say it. I said, Larry King, hilarious. I said, I say my A's hard, or some of my E's are like A's. And I said, that's all living in, and not so much. I lived in Chicago for 5 years, but coming here to the Midwest, it's easy. It's almost kind of like a little Southern accent, right? Toaster. Yeah. You kind of, but I, from day one, have stolen some words, and my family says it, like spendy. As soon as I got here, and someone goes, oh, that's a spendy neighborhood, that's a spendy restaurant. I'm like, what? And so I told my family, like, we love it. So like all of my friends back east say spendy now. And so I'm like, no, we love it. So here's the difference with New Englanders. If you say it different than us, we're like, oh, that's different. We might adopt that. You say it different here, you're wrong, right? So I'm like, okay, I've learned. It's not duck, duck, goose. Okay, but I say duck, duck, gray duck to my friends back there. Like, now everyone back east goes, I want a gray duck hat. So that's the difference.
Yes.
Massachusetts people love Minnesota. So it's really kind of cool. But yes, people are like, wow, you say your R's. I'm like, yeah. My mom was from Jersey. My dad was from Brooklyn, and I was raised on the South Shore of Massachusetts. I was scared straight.
That's right.
I could have had the worst accent in the entire time. Just like Jim, it sounds like he's from Minnesota, but he's lived all over, right, Jim? So your accent's kind of been manipulated as well.
Air Force brat. And when I lived in Baltimore, I did use the word wicked, and nobody blinked. Then I moved to St. Louis, and I used the word wicked, and I got beat up.
Yep.
Well, Jen and I know that you have to use wicked with another word that follows after it. If not, it's just like the musical or someone that's mean, right? You have to say wicked awesome, wicked cool, wicked bad. I mean, it's whenever someone goes, oh, it's a wicked storm coming. I'm like, that person is not native.
Yeah.
You just showed
you're
yourself.
just putting that on.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And then living in the
gosh.
UK, I picked up some Britishisms there too. So now I'm just a little bit eclectic, which is kind of fun.
Oh, good. This summer, you're going to have to teach me some because I love it. I'm watching like all those, what's the slow horses and all those British shows over there. And I'm picking up like little words and nicknames and stuff. My friends from Australia, when like jerks, they call yabos. I always, it's stuff like that. I love it. So I could like pick your brain about all that. But Jen, thank you so much. I know that you had to get up early. I know you're on a whole different timetable, but we are so excited for you to come back to Minnesota Aurora and this time now be the head coach of it and follow in some really awesome footsteps and then make it your own. I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to all of the previous coaches, all of the previous coaching staffs. This has really been a project built on dedication and love between players and coaches to produce that on the field success. And I'm excited to really continue that forward. Thrilled
when do you
to be
come back to the States? Yeah, when do you come back?
Yeah, I've just got a couple more months here, and then I'll be back April-ish. But one of the good things about being here is, whether I was in Minnesota or here, most of our players are playing outside of Minnesota right now in college soccer or, pro contracts abroad, that sort of thing. So everything's video call anyway. And being here, like you said, gives me that lived experience where I can relate to players. So I think for me, there's obviously that little bit of time zone challenge, but the pros of being abroad myself really outweigh the cons as far as the value it allows me to bring back to the club.
Absolutely. And I look forward to it. We'll speak with you for sure in person when you come back. And I'm looking forward to you starting your tenure. So thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me and for all the support you've given the club. We really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. That's Jen Larrick. Look for her this year, the new head coach of Minnesota Aurora.